Hello everybody, Neon here. Okay, so got yet another Kimba video for you guys, but this one isn't exactly going to be a review of another animated property. That'll be coming up later in time. No, today I got another subject matter that has kinda plagued the fandom in this series and another franchise for quite some time now. The video title kinda gave it away, so I'm just gonna go on and say that I'm finally gonna be getting into the controversy of the whole rip-off between Kimba and Simba. Well, I'm gonna be honest, this video would have been out a long time ago if not for my opinions being kind of switched around a little bit. 2019's live-action Lion King movie kind of rekindled the fire between this subject, for one thing, getting more recent voices to talk about this sort of thing. The thing that did switch me around, though, was this guy, YourMovieSucks.org, who, during May of this year, had created a 2.5-hour-long video talking about why this is not a ripoff. Link in the description. Gotta give credit where credit's due, and, well, I might repeat a few facts he brings up already, so I'm giving him credit for those too. It won't be as long, I promise. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. First part of this video is going to go over what the controversy is and what evidence backs it up. After that, what would happen if Kimba and Simba would actually meet up. I know that sounds weird, but the fandom loves to make fan art either comparing the two or making them fight over it. So I think it would be fair to go into it and try to sell the argument myself. So anyway, on to the main matter. Now, this is more than just some fans making pinpoint comparison vids. This is so big that it's got its own section on the Lion King Wikipedia page. The thing here is that the Japanese release of The Lion King in 1994 got some locals to point out the similarities both of them share. This got to such a point that 488 cartoonists and artists filed a petition basically telling Disney to credit Osamu for the original idea. Turns out written books were published with the subject matter in them, such as Watching Anime Reading Manga by Fred Burton and From Goods to a Good Life. The latter's author, by the way, actually making a live TED Talk about this exact thing. Concept art for The Lion King also was commonly used to back this up, including a shot of two cubs, one of which was a white lion cub, as many pointed out as the strongest piece of evidence to support this claim. From there, it's numerous scene comparisons, character comparisons, and idea comparisons, mainly. For some reason they use series that aired after The Lion King, but we'll go over this in just a minute. When looking for this subject online, you're probably going to find a number of similar videos, though this one I could find dating back to 2015. All mainly pointing out similar things such as kind of stories they tell, the scenes they use, the characters they portray, right down to the very name itself. Now, I myself bought into these comparisons, even mentioning so in my first video in this review project. I know there is a controversy between Kimba the White Lion and Disney's The Lion King. And yes, the resemblance is indeed uncanny, to put it lightly. Turns out, I'm sadly mistaken. To sum up what YourMovieSucks.org said, many, if not all of these comparisons are either counterintuitive, illy researched, or just flat out incorrect. For example, although Claw and Scar are both dark-furred lions with scars on their face, they're written and portrayed as completely different characters. Scar being a sly and manipulative uncle, whereas Claw is a tyrannical and brutal lion. Timon and Pumbaa being compared to Bucky and Polly as close friends to the main character is kinda closer to the mark, but not by very much. Speaking of Pumbaa, there's a comparison to, and I quote, comedic warthog characters. I'm assuming they're talking about Gargoyle G. Warthog, but like with Claw, he's a completely different character entirely from Pumbaa. There's also comparisons to themes such as the Circle of Life, which is actually totally wrong. but I'll go over why in the crossover aspect of the video a bit further. The bottom line is that many of these so-called comparisons are vague at best and non-existent at worst. Are some of these similar in visual aspect? Sure, but the context of how they're used is completely different. Besides, it's entirely impossible to come up with an idea that doesn't remotely sound familiar to something else, especially in this day and age. Just because one property did it first doesn't mean everyone else in the world is copycatting it or ripping it off. You know, come to think of it, I think that term is used kind of incorrectly. Now, I'm not saying there aren't films that copy off of other people's success, and I'm not saying you can't use the term ripoff to describe these sort of things, but many people use this term, but treat the thing as if it's a clone of the property, which isn't really true at all. Now, saying The Lion King is a ripoff of Kimba the White Lion just isn't really correct, because there's so many differences between the two that you have to really stretch the definition in order to see similarities at all. When your movie is based off animals, your options are a bit limited, and if your movie is also set in Africa, it limits the choices even more. So can you really blame Disney for using similar things when they only have so much to work with? Now, the only thing that's true in this whole controversy is that there are some people behind The Lion King that are aware of Kimba the White Lion. But that's as far as it goes. That's not enough to conclude that this film is a ripoff of anything. Disney admitted it copied more off of Hamlet and Bambi than Kimba the White Lion, one of which is public domain and the other one made by the same people. So, in the end, no, I don't think The Lion King ripped off Kimba the White Lion at all. At the very absolute least, it might have been inspired a tiny bit, but that's as far as it goes. Alright, now that's out of the way. What would actually happen if Kimba the White Lion and Simba the Lion King were to exist together and actually met? How well would such a thing even go? Well, actually, Kimba already had an answer to that. Well, kind of. In episode 4, Kimba meets the water buffalo Samson, who, while being fond of Panja and has deep respects for him, doesn't entirely follow Kimba's more modern ideas for his own version of the jungle. It's not that he hates him, but considers the old ways more suited than anything new. This is what I believe would most likely happen between both of these lions. They don't hate each other, but that doesn't mean that they have to agree on everything. The circle of life that the Lion King celebrates and strongly implements is almost entirely ignored in Kimba's jungle, and goes as far as to say how wrong that kind of stuff actually is.
This is only a suggestion, but maybe you should give up this farm idea.
What do you mean? Let them go back to their old ways?
Sorry.
You should be!
Given Kimba's naturally kind nature to all life, he wouldn't be a big threat to the animals in the Pride Lands, and I can see him actually helping Simba out with some pesky outlanders that try to come in and disturb the balance. At the same time, though, Simba grew up with the idea of how well the circle of life is in his natural means to survive, hunting other animals. Something Kimba strongly goes against whenever he can. Most likely the two would be friends, but not enough to have one move in with the other given how they grew up and what they believe in. It's not enough for them to go into full-blown war over, but still enough to keep the two from getting too comfortable. It's a bit of a rough idea that people on the internet keep thinking of Kimba as the lion involved in this controversy. It also doesn't really seem to help given the misguided information and flat-out lies some people say in order to support this claim, whether they are informative of either side or not. All the same though, I can conclude off of the evidence that I've put together, and from evidence I've seen off others, that The Lion King is not a ripoff of, well, anything. It is its own property about a king of the jungle with its own story to tell, as Kimba has his own years of stories to tell and retell in different ways. See you all later. Neon out.